Serious online trading. With 20 years experience, professional tools and low fees, Finico is the solid, reliable bank of choice for traders who accept no compromise. Open your account today at finicobank.co.uk.
Farmers have been protesting in India for months over new farming laws which they say will decimate their way of life. But how does this affect you? How does it relate to the Great Reset? And why do people keep saying that Bill Gates is involved? Before we get into this video, would you mind liking and subscribing, please? It really helps us. Thank you.
Hundreds of thousands of farmers marched into Delhi on Tuesday from neighbouring states. At the heart of this protest, new agricultural laws passed by the government in September last year.
Farmers have been protesting in Delhi for months, demonstrating over the government's new farm laws, which they say will ruin their livelihoods. The new farming laws mean farmers can sell directly to private buyers instead of government-controlled markets where they get a minimum guaranteed price. The farmers argue this places them at the mercy of uncontrollable market forces and to the eventual replacement by giant corporations. What could be causing this paranoid delusion in these millions of farmers? We know, don't we, from countries like England and America, that once the door to privatisation and the free market is open, it's very difficult to close it again. And generally speaking, the ordinary people who were told they would benefit from privatisation and the free market end up getting shafted. But don't take my word for it. Let me just talk to a miner in Sheffield. Oh no, I can't, there aren't any more.
Protesters fear the changes will open them to exploitation by private companies and have been demonstrating against them for months now.
Firstly, farming employs 50% of India's workforce, and 85% of those farmers have small holdings of 5 acres or less. In 2019 alone, 10,300 farmers took their own lives. It's difficult not to see those deaths as the impact of globalization on a cultural system not set up to receive it.
Not far from the chaos and anger, the order of India's Republic Day celebrations. For Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he says the new laws will reform agriculture and help farmers.
All this pomp and pageantry really takes a sort of identifiable, recognisable format, doesn't it? Get some tanks, get some lads marching, high kicks, uniforms and stuff. Contrast that, as the news report indeed does, with the chaos that's taking place at the arse end of this new political shift. Obviously, there is a direct osmosis between these two states. This is, I suppose, what globalisation looks like. Opportunism, exploitation, further centralisation of power, further disempowerment of ordinary people. The incentives are not how can we help as many Indian farmers as possible, because if that was the incentive, part of the answer wouldn't include driving 10,000 of them to take their own lives in a single year.
You've been an opponent of big multinational corporations, especially Monsanto, to name just one, because of what you describe as their nefarious influence on agriculture.
Vandana Shiva, who hopefully will be coming up on Under the Skin as a guest, is an expert whose analysis has helped us understand this situation much more deeply and how it interconnects with a broader global picture about the centralisation of power at the cost of the lives of ordinary people.
You know, the entry of corporations into agriculture is so wrong because the corporations only bring poisons. Most of them have roots in Hitler's Germany.
Oh, good. Well, Hitler's Germany. Once a company's got roots in Hitler's Germany, it's difficult not to have some doubts about their incentives and objectives.
In making gases to kill people in concentration camps.
That was not their aim. Their aim was to give people enough.
No, the aim was to make chemicals that kill people. After the wars, they said, why should we stop making these chemicals?
We're making these chemicals now, just because there's not a war on. You mean we'll give up our precious chemicals business?
Let's say now they'll kill pests, they will give fertilizer. Fertilizers were made in the same factories that made explosives.
There must be something else we can do with the chemicals. They do kill people, though. Yeah, they kill people, but, you know, the war's gone now, so there's a lot more people around.
And ammunition for Hitler's
That's
Germany.
not the same goal.
No, the companies are the same and the processes are the same.
Also, the Nazis weren't going, ha, 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 we're evil. They were saying, we're doing this for the benefit of the world. They're saying exactly the same stuff.
So, your rhetoric might change, but the goal does not. The materiality of a death-making chemical doesn't change when you say it's now for feeding the world.
Pretty clear that what she's saying is that there are deep entrenched problems at the root of these chemicals, their origins, and introducing them for the benefit of global corporations is obviously going to unsettle the infrastructure of a evidently quite fragile agricultural nation.
So Monsanto came illegally, didn't take any approval, with the promise that they would increase farmers' incomes and have this magical technology to control pests. Well, the bollworm is now resistant. Farmers are in debt. Farmers are committing suicide.
All right, there are some side effects. The bollworm is resistant. Farmers are now in debt and they are committing suicide. But other than that, these death chemicals are winners.
The area's been ruined. The pollinators are gone.
All right, we ruined the area a little bit. Yes, plants can't pollinate in the same way. But other than that, the death chemicals are winners.
The groundwater's gone.
We've also had some problem with the groundwater. Oh, right. All right. Also, the groundwater has been damaged. But other than that...
So I saved seeds. We brought organic cotton seeds back. We work with the Gandhi ashrams on hand spinning and hand weaving of this organic cotton. The economy in the villages where we work has jumped tenfold.
It's a shame, isn't it? Like, that basically our grandparents were right when they said, why don't you just keep things simple, stop watching that television, don't eat so much sugar, make your own clothes, have a hobby, connect to nature, get outside, turn the TV on. All that stuff was actually correct. It's more beneficial for us. In simple terms, it's moving into alignment with the conditions from which we are evolved and developed. The problem with globalizing, centralizing forces is they don't care for the individual in the way that we've evolved over millions of years. So we find ourselves in both economic, ideological and living conditions that are just not appropriate for the type of creatures that we are. We need to return to simple and slow living. We need to connect to the conditions that we evolved alongside, that we evolved to live in.
Bill Gates is actually continuing the work of Monsanto. I've talked about how he's pirated seeds we have saved that tolerates salt and floods, and he says invention. This biopiracy is a bit like Columbus. Why do I call him today's Columbus? Because he's carving out new colonies.
Many people regard Bill Gates as a philanthropist, as a person who does a lot, like the elimination of malaria. But as Vandana Shiva is now articulately explaining, obviously better than I could, with more wisdom and knowledge than I'm likely to accrue, that there could be alternative motivations for this apparent philanthropy.
You say he has a strategy, a nefarious strategy, what you describe as philanthrocapitalism.
In the episode of Under the Skin we did with Joel Backin, he also explained that good companies, inverted commas good, are bad and creating problems because they are now claiming to be more than profit-driven enterprises. They're sort of lifestyle companies, ideologies. This is true dystopia. True dystopia looks quite nice and has high aims. It's not cackling, draconian and overtly Machiavellian. It comes sort of clear, well-branded, apparently kind, but the objectives, if the objectives are the accumulation of power rather than the sharing of power, then you know what you've got.
You're not saying he's using the wrong methods, he's pursuing a wrong goal with self-interest. You also attacked Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, saying they're all linked together.
You're saying that powerful billionaires might somehow have shared interest. What could Mark Zuckerberg, the plutocrat leader of Facebook, have in common with Bill Gates, the plutocrat leader of Microsoft? I mean, what possible shared interests could these two guys have?
I mean, this reeks a bit of conspiracy theory, doesn't it?
People's frustrations and concerns about globalization are not properly addressed because the objectives of globalizing interests are very, very powerful, and they align very neatly with the interests of the media. So you won't hear negative opinions freely expressed because that's what power does. Power eliminates opposition.
We stopped Mark Zuckerberg from trying to get into Indian agriculture. It was a big mobilization of people who believe in the open internet.
What did he want to do?
Well, basically what they do is they mine the data from the farmers.
Large corporations such as Microsoft, Amazon and IBM are racing to collect as much data as they can from all nodes of the food system. becoming more and more integrated and connected through corporate partnerships, mergers and takeovers, enabling corporate capture of the food system. Once captured, this can then be processed with their powerful algorithms to provide farmers with real-time data and analysis on the condition of their soils and water, the growth of their crops, the situation with pests and diseases, and the looming weather and climate changes they may face. There's nothing wrong with that, except that behind it is the imperative to centralise power and create profit. The data and their knowledge of soil and crops will all be used to disempower those farmers, not to empower them. Some of these ideas, that access to that data might be appealing for farms that can afford technologies, but it's a different story for the 500 million small farm households in the world who produce most of the world's food, who cannot afford the high-priced data-gathering technologies. I suppose it seems clear then that to change the world, we must empower this majority that do not have access to these centralising systems and have to therefore kowtow to them, ultimately yield to them and be subsumed into their centralising might. For the corporations investing in digital agriculture, the objective is to integrate millions of farmers into a vast, centrally controlled digital network. Once integrated, they will be heavily encouraged, if not obligated. What's that gun for? That's the old encouraging gun. Don't speak ill of the encouraging gun. To buy their products and to supply them with agricultural commodities. All of this functioning through the mobile money systems being developed by the same companies. Doesn't the image come to mind of a sort of giant claw descending from the heavens and placing these nodes that are gathering information into the lives of people that have been existing for a long time in relative comfort? I'm sure Indian agriculture is fraught with all manner of complex difficulties, famine, failings, poverty and problems. But let's not pretend that big tech and the Great Reset are about anything other than centralising and maximising their own power, because this is again the requirements of the ecologic and ideological system that underwrites all of these undertakings.
Bill Gates does both. He takes living resources and our seeds and biodiversity, mines it into data and wants ownership along with his friends, and Mark Zuckerberg mines your data and your behaviors and turns it into the raw material.
I like that the people like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates are sort of in the background, like, sorry, I am doing some of this stuff, she's right, you know, sorry, I am gathering up all their seeds and all their data, yes, and centralising and keeping, I'm very sorry about all, oh God, this is embarrassing. Can I leave?
You have enough data on what happened with Facebook selling data. This is a major threat to democracy.
Big tech's emerging digital platforms will not help farmers share their knowledge or promote their diverse seed and animal varieties. The platforms will emphasise conformity. Participating farmers will have to buy the inputs that are promoted and sold on credit at high interest rates, follow the advice of a chatbot to qualify for crop insurance, which they must pay for, sell their crops to the company at a non-negotiable price. These developments in digital agriculture are not divorced from big tech's aggressive moves in the food distribution and retail. In fact, digital agriculture is building the centralised production systems upstream that will supply big tech's evolving operations downstream, which are rapidly displacing to small vendors who have long served to bring foods from small farmers to consumers.
So this is why you're calling them billionaire dictators, because you think they're not helping democracy, but actually threatening and even killing it? I mean, isn't this too much?
No, it's a conspiracy, that's a conspiracy.
Now that we have the data that is showing that native seeds have more nutrition, they produce more food, they have no cost because you don't have to use chemicals, that local biodiversity is the way to feeding the world, in spite of all that evidence, Bill Gates is still imposing and forcing GMOs.
What advantages and benefits are these big tech companies that are meddling in Indian agriculture claiming to offer? And how does this all connect to the World Economic Forum? Well, one way is Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi told the 2018 World Economic Forum meeting in Davos that climate change, terrorism and the backlash against globalization are the three most significant challenges to civilization as we know it. It's pretty clear what is being said there, that their incentive is to control at all costs the relentless march of globalization, regardless of how it impacts ordinary people, no matter how many farmers take their own lives, no matter how many industries are lost, no matter what the ecological impact. As part of the 2021 Davos agenda, the World Economic Forum published a report focused on a strawberry growing contest by Pinduoduo between traditional farmers and data scientists, concluding that data analysis, intelligent sensors and greenhouse automation helped the scientists to win. Fourth industrial revolution technologies such as AI are forecast to deliver huge productivity gains. In its Future of Jobs report 2020, the World Economic Forum estimates that by 2025, 85 million jobs may be displaced by a shift in the division of labour between humans and machines. That sounds like 85 million jobs are going to be lost, while 97 million new roles may emerge, they might emerge, that are more adapted to the new division of labour between humans, machines and algorithms. Of course, none of us would seek to impede the progress of technology. What a beautiful, glorious thing it can be, what incredible advances we have been granted by it. But the idea that these centralised forces, these big tech corporations, who we know from their behaviour, by their fruits shall we know them, behave in a particular way, should they be entrusted with overseeing this project when they have an obvious and explicit incentive to generate profit at all costs, at any costs? What we're seeing in India with these protests is ordinary people recognising that the culture that they have created and built, their way of life, built over thousands of years, is being decimated and destroyed to afford the space for big tech corporations to enter into their lives, centralise power and control it. IBM, Microsoft, huge organisations that traditionally don't have at their heart the interests of ordinary people. If there's anything I missed in this video, and God knows there must have been, please let us know in the comments. We check them and we reply to them. Please subscribe to this channel, please like, please follow us, and let us know if there's anything